neurotransmitters, and today we're here to talk to you about hormones. Thanks to these bad boys, you are no longer baby-sized and not dead yet.
Your hormones and the glands that secrete them come from a little place called the endocrine system. The endocrine system is made up of glands that make and secrete hormones that regulate your growth, metabolism, and sexual reproduction. We'll get to the specifics later, but for now, here's Ainsley on biorhythms.
The endocrine system is an involuntary system, meaning that the intentions of the individual do not affect it. Instead, it is affected by biorhythms, otherwise known as the body's internal clock. The first pattern is pulses. This releases spurts of the hormone. An example of this release is insulin, which goes directly into the blood and will be discussed later. The next cycle is monthly. The best known monthly cycle is the menstrual cycle. Seasonal patterns function on a much larger scale. An example of a seasonal affected hormone is melatonin. During the winter, melatonin levels increase, therefore decreasing the body's activity and increasing the chance of an individual to get seasonal affective disorder, which otherwise is known as seasonal depression. The last pattern is circadian. The circadian cycle functions on a 24-hour scale. The last cycle is circadian. This cycle functions on a 24-hour clock. The circadian cycle runs on a solar basis, meaning that it is synchronized with the solar bodies. While the body does not fail without the presence of light and dark, it will fall out of rhythm slightly. This is also known as jet lag. The circadian cycle affects the hypothalamus and the pineal gland.
Note, we say pineal rather than pineal the whole time. Please excuse this mistake.
Nerve receptors in the eye send signals to suprachiasmatic nuclei in the hypothalamus. These signal the pineal gland to release melatonin. The melatonin therefore affects the sleep cycle. The sleep cycle is also affected by cortisol, a hormone secreted by the adrenal gland. This normally peaks production during waking hours at around 9 a.m. and meets its low at midnight. Other cycles affected by the circadian rhythm are body temperature, which peaks during mid-afternoon and falls to its low late at night. Additionally, metabolism is affected by the pituitary gland, which we'll speak of later. The last thing affected by the circadian cycle is endorphins and sex hormones.
So we just learned all about the release of hormones, but what released them?
Glands, 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 glands!
Yes, glands. There are two main types of glands, the endocrine glands and the exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are located in places like your skin and your mouth. An example of a secretion by the exocrine glands is saliva and sweat. So I guess we can thank the exocrine gland for that gross smell in the locker room after gym. Luckily for us, today we will be focusing mainly on the endocrine glands. The endocrine glands secrete major hormones directly into the bloodstream to be transported to other cells. Today we will be discussing glands in the endocrine system, the hormones they secrete, and their functions. The pineal gland.
Starting at the top of your head, our first gland is the pineal gland, which is located at the base of your brain above the brainstem. This special little gland is best known for secreting melatonin. Its amounts rise at night and lower in the morning, so it likely controls your sleep cycle. The pineal gland also controls how the seasons affect you. As winter and fall, the nights are longer, so your body's going to produce more melatonin. This stuff is super important for animals' seasonal biology with stuff like reproduction and coat growth. It also affects your puberty as your body produces less melatonin at night. That's why you hit the snooze 3 times this morning and miss the bus. Any problems with this gland will greatly affect your body's internal clock and the timing of your puberty.
The hypothalamus.
Located in the brain that controls most of what the endocrine and nervous systems do. Neurosecretory cells within the hypothalamus are what secrete and produce hormones that are then used and distributed throughout the body. The hypothalamus, as the mastermind of the body, is what often coordinates processes that keep us alive and our bodies function. The mastermind of the body, this part of the brain receives information from other regions of the brain and hormone concentrations in the blood. It responds to these by outputting signals in the form of hormones to the rest of the body, especially the pituitary gland, where most hormones are stored that are related to this process. 2 of the hormones released by the hypothalamus are oxytocin and antidiuretic hormone. Oxytocin targets muscles in the uterus and mammary glands in women to prepare for childbirth and to begin lactation. Antidiuretic hormone is the hormone that controls the kidney tubes, and it signals to the kidney tubes to take in water or to push out water to keep the water solute concentrations in your blood level to prevent homeostasis from coming out of your body.
The pituitary gland.
The pituitary gland acts as storage for hormones from the hypothalamus, and its activity is regulated by hormones from this gland as well. Prolactin PRL targets the mammary glands and begins milk production in breast during lactation. Growth hormone GH targets muscles and bones and regulates the development of these areas. Follicle stimulating hormone FSH targets reproductive organs and stimulates egg production in females, sperm production in males. Thyroid stimulator hormone TSH targets the thyroid gland and monitors the secretion of hormones from this gland. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, targets the adrenal cortex and stimulates production and use of cortisol and aldosterone. Luteinizing hormone, LH, targets the reproductive organs and stimulates the making of hormones, such as progesterone and estrogen in females, ovulation in females, and testosterone in males. Dysfunction relates to any malfunction of the pituitary gland, which is often caused by a tumor. Acromegaly is an excessive and prolonged exposure to the growth hormone that results in overgrown body tissues, often in the face. Empty sella syndrome is the regression or flattening of the pituitary gland in the skull, and galactorrhea is the secretion of a milky discharge from the nipples, with many causes like tumors, pregnancy, drugs, and many other things. Hyperprolactinemia is high blood levels of the hormone prolactin caused by pregnancy, breastfeeding, tumors, and many more things as well. Hypopituitarianism is a rare condition when your pituitary gland doesn't make enough of certain hormones. Septo-optic dysplasia, SOD, is a rare disorder characterized by abnormal development of the optic disc and pituitary deficiencies that often results in blindness in one or both eyes
The
and low
thyroid is an
muscle
important
tone.
gland located in the throat. It controls the body's metabolism by releasing enzymes. The two hormones responsible for this action are triiodothyronine and thyroxine. These are iodine dependent, meaning the body relies on an outside source. It needs to be supplemented. If the body lacks an iodine or is facing some other abnormality, including the formation of a tumor, then the thyroid may undergo thyrotoxicosis. This means it will either produce too much or too little of the hormones. This is known as hypothyroid goitre or hypothyroid goitre. These cause swells known as goitres. Also produced by the thyroid is calcitonin. Calcitonin affects the calcium in the bloodstream. This can affect the body's weight, as it controls the fats, carbohydrates, and proteins within the body.
The parathyroid.
Now we move on to the thyroid's right-hand man, the parathyroid. These four tiny glands are located at the rear of the thyroid. This gland secretes parathormone, which controls calcium metabolism. The reduction of this hormone means less calcium in the blood, which means excitable nerves and muscles, which means spasms. Too much of this hormone, hyperparathyroidism, means decalcification of the bones, which leads to fractures. Or the kidney will raise its calcium secretion, and then you have kidney stones. Great, right?
The pancreas. The pancreas is located in the abdominal cavity. It's located in between the small intestine and the stomach. Specialized cells in the pancreas are called the islets of Langerhans, and they function as an endocrine gland. The pancreas secretes hormones that affect the liver, muscle, and adipose tissue. These hormones function to raise and lower blood glucose or sugar levels.
There are two main hormones secreted by the pancreas, insulin and glucagon. Insulin lowers blood glucose levels by stimulating the storage and use of glucose. These hormones are very important to the body, so a disorder to the pancreas can be very dangerous. However, there are many pancreatic disorders. Just our luck, right?
We will begin with pancreatitis. Pancreatitis is the inflammation of the pancreas. There's acute pancreatitis and chronic pancreatitis. Acute pancreatitis is sudden onset. It lasts for days. It is characterized by abdominal pain, fever, nausea, and vomiting. Chronic pancreatitis is long-term. It occurs over years and is characterized by upper abdominal pain, loss of weight without trying, and steatorrhea, or oily feces. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune response to beta cells. It causes pancreas to have trouble producing insulin to lower blood glucose levels. This type of diabetes often occurs in children, so they are dependent on an alternate source of insulin. Type 2 diabetes is where the body builds resistance to insulin, so more insulin is needed to lower blood glucose levels. Symptoms occur when the pancreas can no longer produce enough insulin.
Adrenal glands look like two triangles, one above each kidney, and they have two parts. One, the adrenal cortex, the outer portion, and two, the adrenal medulla, the inner portion. The cortex produces corticosteroids, which regulate your salt-to-water balance in your body and help your body respond to stress, metabolism, the immune system, and sexual development, like testosterone. The second part, the adrenal medulla, the inner portion, produces catecholamines, which are things like epinephrine, which is basically adrenaline. Adrenaline helps your body respond to stress, and it raises your blood pressure and heart rate as you get more stressed. That's why after a horror movie or a scary haunted house, your heart's going to still be beating.
Here are the problems with the adrenal gland. Number 1, Cushing's syndrome. This is when your glands produce too much cortisol, which is a hormone that mainly helps respond to stress. Number 2, Addison's disease. This is when your body produces too little cortisol. The causes of these diseases are genetic mutations, tumors, infections, problems with other glands that interact with the adrenal gland, and certain medication.
The reproductive organs, the testes and the ovaries.
The female reproductive glands are the ovaries. They are located in the hip area at the ends of the fallopian tubes. The ovaries secrete hormones that target the breast and the uterus. The male reproductive organs are the testes. The testes are located in the scrotum, and they secrete hormones that target sex organs. As we already mentioned, these reproductive glands secrete hormones that target change of the body that occur in puberty. For a refresher, puberty is the time when sex organs mature and secondary sexual traits develop. The ovaries trigger the release and maturation of eggs. They also prep the body for pregnancy by prepping the uterine lining and developing the genitals and the development of the breasts. Testes help form sperm. They develop male genitals and sex traits. How do the glands do this? By secreting hormones. Ovaries produce progesterone and estrogen, which are pregnancy traits. Testes produce androgens like testosterone to signal the of male sex traits.
Now for some reproductive gland disorders.
We'll begin with disorders of the ovaries. Ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is an inherited cancer of the ovaries. It occurs due to a mutation in DNA. It can develop in the ovaries, but it can also develop at the ends of the fallopian. Menstrual disorders. Menstrual disorders can include irregularity of bleeding, like bleeding too much, too little, or not at all. It can also include irregularity of cycle, or premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. Premenstrual syndrome causes the symptoms of bloating, headaches, cramps, and mood swings, as you probably well know. Disorders are caused by, among other factors, lack of estrogen and progesterone, which are the hormones that the ovaries are responsible for secreting. Now we will be moving on to disorders of the testes. Hypogonadism. Hypogonadism occurs due to the lack of testosterone. This can cause problems in the development of sex organs in puberty. This can cause underdeveloped, ambiguous, or even female genitals. This can also cause infertility and erectile dysfunction. Sexual dysfunction. Sexual dysfunction occurs due to multiple factors, including low testosterone levels. It can lead to erectile dysfunction, ejaculation dysfunction, or low libido.
Now it's time to bust some myths and learn some facts.
Welcome to Mythconceptions! Today we will discuss the myths and misconceptions associated with the endocrine system. Myth number 1. The first myth that we're going to discuss is the fact that hormone replacements work. In reality, hormone replacements do not work because they desensitize the receptor cells to the hormone, and it actually causes lower hormone level. It kind of sucks for anybody who's taking hormone replacements.
Myth number 2. We already mentioned this, but hormones actually don't cause your emotions. Neurotransmitters do.
Fun fact number 1. Endocrinology is actually 2,000 years old and was studied by ancient Chinese healers.
Fun fact number 2, but not so much fun for your bones. The endocrine system can be one of the reasons for osteoporosis.
Fun fact number 3. All hormones don't actually come from the endocrine system. Luckily for us, we would have had a lot of work to do.
Fun fact number 4. Diabetes used to be identified by the tasting of urine. Even Hippocrates tested this theory out.
Really, Hippocrates? Wikipedia says you're one of the most influential people in medicine, and you tasted people's pee?
The system may go through thyrotoxicosis.
1. You ever feel sad? Hormones aren't why, at least not at our age. We're gonna tell you about them anyway. 1.
The endocrine system secretes hormones.
Next cycle is monthly. These are known... Thank you, Julianne.
1.
Yes, glands. There are two main types of glands, the endocrine glands and the exocrine glands. Exocrine glands are located in our skin and our mouths. An example of the secretion... I did it right!
You got it right!
What did I do? 20 minutes, 4 group members, 165 points, and one amazing final product. Today I'm here to teach you about the benefits of using a video to present our human systems project.
Hi, I did it.